Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today, we've got a little bit of a video for you talking about some kits that probably need an update for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. There's a lot of talk about a bunch of different armies, most notably I would say Seraphon is one that always gets talked about in this conversation as needing a lot of kits to be redone for it. But what I want to do in this is I want to really think about those kits that desperately need an update. Now, I know a lot of people think that maybe everything Finecast and Metal should go away, but some of those kits are okay. I mean, I know they're Finecast and that's not the best, but the models themselves do look decent enough. I think there's definitely some kits that massively need updates more than some others, and I thought I'd give a list of 10 kits I think desperately need an update. But I'd also love to hear your thoughts and your reasoning why this kit needs an update more than anything else, because that's what I'm thinking of in this. We've seen with Games Workshop that they've released the White King last week on the reveals that they've shown, and that was a kit that desperately needed an update. I mean, it was completely outclassed and outdated. It was also metal, I still believe he was, and it just never represented what a White King looked like on horse anymore. It just was so far out of date, and that's the sort of stuff I'm looking at. So you might find that things like, say, a good example of something that I don't think needs an update, even though it is Finecast because it has a good model, is, say, the Skink Starseer. While he is Finecast, or potentially metal if you're grabbing one, it is a really nice and good looking sculpt, and I don't think it desperately warrants a remake more than other kits. I'm looking for those kits that are so dated and old, and also generally either metal or Finecast, but also some plastic kits as well that are very ancient, and they're the ones I'm really looking at for in this video. So with that out the way, let's get talking about 10 kits that desperately need an update, and also how we go about updating them. Number one, we've got the Skryre acolytes. Now, this is one of the ranges that generally is most talked about when needing updated kits. Skaven are right up there with Seraphon for the two ranges that I hear all the time need some updated kits. Now, for me, the Skryre acolytes have numerous problems with them. For one, they are very old Skaven models themselves. They are really hard to buy. They're currently, I think in Australia, they're $22 for a single figure. That means a unit of 10 is $220. So that is if you buy them like this. And they're just quite dated models. I mean, they've got some cool things about them. They're not the worst Skaven sculpts in existence, I will say that. We'll get to that unit later. But for me, they're just really dated. They're showing their age, and they're really hard to buy. They're just not a good value for money buy. And what's sad is they're a great unit in the game, and they've also got a great bit of background about them. I mean, Poison Wind Globe is what they were known as in Warhammer Fantasy, but they're throwing these poison gas balls, and I think it's just such a cool little idea for a Skaven army to be using that sort of weird technology to hold this poison gas inside these little orbs. It's cool, and I really think if we go down that road with more modern takes on it, I think we could have something really cool. Maybe they're bombs and stuff like that in a more modern sculpt. On the right hand side here, I've got a picture of some conversions. Now, this is a generic conversion. I don't know who this one particularly is. I just found it on Google image search. So if this is yours, please let me know, because these are awesome. But a lot of people I know have done very similar conversions with these, or they've either found a bunch of old Poisoned Wind mortars and used them as Skryre acolytes, mainly because it's just so hard monetarily to purchase the metal models that Games Workshop actually provides. The ones here you see are modelled with the Skaven Blood Bowl team, which are fantastic little sculpts, and they've got some backpacks on them. I've seen people use Space Marine backpacks or Chaos Space Marine backpacks. And little orbs generally made of green stuff are quite easy to attach to them. But I think with a more modern take on this could be a really cool looking, cyberpunk, steampunk, warp punk, Skaven are sort of unit. Number two, and I think probably the most likely unit in this list to see an update sometime soon, is the zombie kit. Now, you can see on the left here, I've got the old zombie kit, and this was cool. I mean, it's a multi-part zombie kit that's got all arms and all the heads are options, and it's just it was a great kit back in the day. However, this kit has almost been in the hobby longer than I have. And in fact, I think it's actually been in the hobby longer than I have. And it's just in desperate need of an update. What was great back then isn't so great now, and it's showing its age. On the right, we've got the zombies that were shown in the Cursed City, the new Warhammer Quest box set, and they're cool. Don't get me wrong, I really like these models. I like the whole leant over shambling sort of look to them, but I'm not a fan of the gravestones on every model. Now, for Cursed City, that's fine that they all look like this. They've all got the gravestones. I understand the populace of Cursed City put stakes through the zombies to hope they won't rise. That doesn't sort of work. But I think if going on the original Warhammer Quest set we got for Silver Tower, where we got just those different options of Karak acolytes and Zangor, we only ever got 3 different Zangor models that were just duplicated and 4 Karak acolyte models that were duplicated in that set. And I think we're seeing the idea of what zombies are in new Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and I don't think these will look exactly like our new zombie kit we get for a Soul Black Gravelords release. I think we're going to see something along these lines, definitely a more modernized zombie kit. I think this points towards maybe getting a new modernized zombie kit, but I don't think we're going to see anything exactly like the Cursed City set. But zombies, just, yeah, they're definitely one of those ones I'd like to see updated, and I think they're probably the one in the list I've got of all my updates that's going to see one soon. Number 3, we have Chaos Marauders. Now you can see on the left we've got the current Chaos Marauder kit, and it is like the zombies, just very dated. I mean, it's a multi-part plastic kit. Your heads and your hands and even the capes are all different options, and that's pretty cool. But once again, it's just really showing its age, especially when you can compare it to the more modern Dark Oath, I guess, generic Chaos Barbarian characters that have come out, like the Dark Oath War Queen and the Dark Oath Chieftain. I mean, they look amazing. I think for me, it's just a matter of updating that Marauder kit and making them look like these Dark Oath characters. They just look amazing, these Dark Oath characters. They continue to give the same sort of vibe and feel that those original Marauders did. Maybe a little bit more Age of Sigmar-y, if that's even a word, but definitely this is how you need to update them, and they desperately, desperately need one. I mean, I hate that Marauders are so good as they are right now, but if they looked like those Dark Oath War Queen and Dark Oath Chieftain there, I wouldn't hate it quite as much. Number 4, we have the Salamanders. And so for me, this is almost the worst offender on the entire list, I think. The Salamander model is just dated. It doesn't look good in any way, shape or form. And not only that, they're amazing on the tabletop, so people are using them. And they're having to go to other alternate companies. Generally, Mercer Miniatures is a great place for some great alternate Salamander models I found people are getting. But for me, I think this kit needs an update, and not just that, I think it needs like a complete rethink of how it is and how it looks on the table. For me, the Salamanders are on this tiny little cavalry base, and I think the Salamanders should be on like a 90, if not the 110 mil cavalry base. Have these monstrous lizards on a much bigger base and make them bigger. They are tiny, tiny creatures, and I don't think they should be. I think they should be much, much bigger and just that much cooler looking on these much bigger bases. For me, that's the best way to do it. Not only give them a great resculpt, and the picture I've got up here is the Total War Warhammer render of a salamander, which looks awesome. Give me that and put it much larger, make it on a bigger base, and I think we've got a winner for salamanders getting a resculpt. Number 5, we have the Night Runners. This is the other Skaven unit I was talking about, and probably the worst offender in the entire Skaven army of desperately needing an update. Yes, I'm talking even more than like rat ogres and giant rats. Yeah, they need an update, but they're not the worst sculpts in the Skaven range, and I think the worst sculpt in the Skaven range by far is the Night Runner box set. These are still the same old Skaven models that the old clan rats were. I think they're around 4th, perhaps even before. I mean, they were the same Night Runners I got into the hobby with. And you know, they were cool back then, but nowadays they just don't stand up. I mean, having seen that Death Runner model that came out with Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, I think Night Runners are just in desperate, desperate need of an update. I mean, what's not to love about Ninja Rats? Like, it's a cool concept and theme, and you read about Clan Eshin in all the lore and the Skaven, and then you go look at the models, and this is what you see. You're not thrilled with it, really, are you? And that's not to say, like I said, they were great back in the day, and I have a couple of units of them that I used to love. I loved these models back in the day, but there's no doubt they just don't stand up anymore. Now, how would we fix this? Well, once again, I've pulled up an image from Warhammer Total War, or Total War Warhammer. It should definitely be said the first way. I hate. Anyway, side subject there. And I think we just need to re-sculpt it, make it look more like the current Skaven line. Like, the clan rats are really cool. I really like the new clan rat models. I think they're a lot cleaner. They're much smaller and thinner. They've not got bulbous, like, big hulking muscles like these Night Runners here do. They're lean. They're very much more rat-like, rather than these, I guess, almost ape-like models with rat heads, which I'm not a fan of. They definitely just need a nice, quick little update to make them look more like the slinky, stealthy rats they are. And while you're at it, I mean, some dynamic posing for Night Runners wouldn't go amiss either. Like, this is a unit you could have jumping off rocks and having all sorts of weird poses. And probably make it a dual kit with the Gutter Runners as well. Number 6, and we come back to Seraphon. The Saurus cavalry kit, for me, is one of the worst defenders in Seraphon. I think even more so than the Saurus warriors, and we'll get to them in a second. But for me, they just don't look good. Not so much the riders. The riders are okay, although I'm not a fan of the very, like, not sculpted underneath when they sit on the saddle. I think you can do a lot better with that nowadays, but for me, they just look like they're riding very bad dinosaurs. Like, they just don't look great. I mean, I see a lot of people, especially... Well, you saw a lot of people back in Warhammer Fantasy when the Dark Elves got a re-release, and they got their Cold One Knights remade on the now known as Drakespawn Knights, but they got the mounts remade, and they were Cold Ones back then as well. You instantly saw the difference. The Dark Elf ones just look like raptors, like the Cold Ones are supposed to be. They're supposed to be these raptor-like creatures that are like powerful little mini T-Rexes almost. And they just don't give that feeling with the Saurus cavalry models. They just look really dated and really old, and they don't look menacing in any way. I've got a picture up here of the old, well, I'm sorry, not of the old kit. I do have the old kit on the left, but I've got a picture up from Warhammer Total War, once again, of the Saurus cavalry from that, and these look much more like Saurus cavalry to me. They look like the mini T-Rex raptor cross hybrid things that they are, and I think this is the way to go. I think if we remake a kit of this, you could easily make a Saurus cavalry unit option, and then also have like a mounted temple guard option in there as well. I think would be a great addition to the kit. And as I mentioned, Saurus warriors, they are another terrible offender. For me, they just don't look great anymore. I mean, once again, they're a multi-part kit that looked good back in the day, but they are just terribly ancient now, and they don't look like the menacing warriors. I think you could find pictures from Warhammer Total War that really do them justice, but for me, I think I found a model that's a much more updated looking Saurus character that I think you can go with the Saurus warriors. I really like his much more Dracothian than dinosaur sort of look that he's got. I like the really long tail. I'm of course talking about the model on the right here, which is the Saurus Old Blood model that can be built on top of the Carnosaur, but this is also the one that comes on foot if you build the Troglodon with Skink Oracle variation. I think for me, I like the big head crest, I like the big long tail, I like the stance and the weapon and how he's very open and posed. And I think this can be taken to Saurus warriors and applied. I think nice large tails that make it look like that tail is a real big weapon. The open mouths with like the teeth showing really nice and defined, big open poses showing off that immense power that Saurus warriors are supposed to have. I think this is the right way to go about making new Saurus warriors. I mean, and while you're at it as well, like the Saurus cavalry, I suggested making a temple guard variation that's mounted. I think with a Saurus warrior kit update, you make it a temple guard kit as well. You make it a dual kit between the two with a few different weapon options potentially to change up and some different armor plates and such. 8, we've got Auric Ardboys. Now, these for me are an interesting one. I don't particularly think they're terrible, but I think they are the only thing in the entire Ironjawz range that stands out like a thumb. For me, they just don't look like the more savage and hardened orcs that the rest of the Ironjawz range does. They've still got that sort of very comical orc look that a lot of Warhammer Fantasy orcs had, where they've got shoulders forward, butts out, and the very, like, I guess, dopey looking pose to them. They don't look particularly menacing as orcs. They look a bit more lethargic, rather. And for me, I'd like to see them updated and made to look more like their current range of friends, like the brutes. I mean, the brutes look menacing, and I understand the brutes are bigger than ardboys, so make smaller brutes. We've seen the updated ardboys in the Warhammer Underworlds warband that came out in Series 1, and I definitely think that's the way to go. Make them look like their bigger cousins in the range, and that's just all there is to it, I think. Updating and making some uniform weapon options, or cleaning up that whole weapon. Give them different weapons and keep the same profile they have now, or make some more uniform weapon options like the brutes have. Number 9, we're once again returning back to Seraphon. I said they're probably the army that's going to appear in here the most, or they're one of the ranges at least that gets talked about the most, and for me it's Chameleon skinks. I mean, on the left we've got the old Chameleon skinks, and we've seen what a new Chameleon skink can look like now, thanks to the Warhammer Underworlds warband that's coming out for Seraphon, and I think they're desperately in need of an update. I mean, we've got a look here at the Chameleon skink as well about what's been updated about Seraphon over time that's changed about them. I mean, they're no longer these jungle savages that they once were in the world that was in Warhammer Fantasy. They're now much more advanced. Like, they've got some cool little star-crafted weapons, and I like the fact that this little Chameleon skink here has a bit of metal on his weapon. He's got these sort of updated weapons. He looks a little bit more like an actual Seraphon rather than a lizard man, and I think that's generally a problem with the whole Seraphon range in general, is that they don't look like Seraphon, they look like lizardmen, and they're not sort of portraying what we've now been told they are in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. I think things like this, just little bits of updates to their weaponry and to how they look, the more Dracothian sort of look that we've got going. I mean, they look more dragony. This looks more dragonfly inspired as well than the Chameleon skinks of old. I mean, obviously it's Chameleon inspired in general, but it looks like he's got like little dragonfly aspects and dragon aspects to him as well, I think. And I really think that's the way forward for Seraphon. And number 10, we've got the Daemon Prince. Now, the Daemon Prince for me is an interesting one. The model itself doesn't look terrible. I mean, I like the Daemon Prince model myself. However, for me, he is very much like the old Greater Daemons. Once they were these massive pieces that everyone feared, and they looked amazing in Warhammer Fantasy as these gargantuan pieces, but as Games Workshop has got better and better at sculpting, and we've had more and more, I guess, advancements in technology, we've got bigger and bigger models. And you've seen all the Greater Daemons now, ever since the Lord of... what was the Slanesh one? The Keeper of Secrets got its update. We've now seen all of them done in these much larger versions than what they were, and the Daemon Prince for me is still stuck in that old scale size. I feel like Daemon Princes should be so much bigger than what they are, and I think with the Be'lakor model that we all think is coming, I mean, we're pretty sure it's Be'lakor at this point. I've got him pictured, all the pieces that they showed in the teaser video pictured together there. I think we may get a dual kit, maybe. Maybe it'll be a dual kit Be'lakor, and you've got a Daemon Prince kit that has a Be'lakor option. I mean, I think that's the right way to do it. It's like all the other Greater Daemon kits where you have, you know, generic Greater Daemon and then named character Greater Daemon of such kit. And I think that's the right way to do this. Give us a Daemon Prince kit and give Be'lakor as the named character option. I think Daemon Princes need to be bigger than they are. They just don't have that massive... I guess, visual threat on the tabletop that they need to represent exactly what they are, this perfectly ascended Chaos Champion to Daemonhood. And yeah, that for me is the biggest letdown of Daemon Prince model, is that it's no longer that big fearsome piece. It's more this little mean piece that honestly is not much bigger than many other pieces of minor characters in the game. I think up his size, give him like 14, 16, 18 wounds and make him awesome. Well, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel. And also, leave us a comment letting us know which kits you think I was right on, which ones are wrong. There's no right or wrong opinions in this. We all want different things from different models, but which kits do you think are most in need of an update? Like, I understand not every army is going to get all its models updated at once. That doesn't happen all that often. But which kits do you think are desperately in need of that update? And how would you go about updating them? How would you build a new aesthetic? Would you keep them the same? Would you slightly change them, etc.? But while you're here, if you want to come chat more, come join our Discord server, where you can find a link to that down in the description of the video. And while you're on YouTube, go check out my featured channel section, which has a bunch of other fantastic Warhammer Age of Sigmar content from a bunch of other fantastic people that do everything from battle reports, painting tutorials, hobby tutorials, and more besides. Lastly though, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who supports the channel via Patreon or YouTube members. Thank you to James, AJC, JC, Christian Weir, Philip Ward, Soren, Kenny Lowe, Alder and Shotfirst, Chaos Spawn, James Crowder, and Andrew Jarvis. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel, and if you'd like to help support the channel like these fine people do, you can do so by following a link on the description of the video as well. That's it for today, folks, though. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.